Donald Trump is urging U.S. citizens and nationals of allied countries to leave Iran, while simultaneously calling on Iranian protesters to stand firm and even seize government institutions. Help is on the way, the American president says. Many interpret these words as a signal of a possible strike against the Iranian regime in the coming days. Protests in Iran are intensifying by the day, by the hour. Reports indicate serious clashes between protesters and Iranian security forces. Reliable information is scarce, as the internet has been effectively shut down across the country. Nevertheless, some news agencies cite figures of up to 12,000 protesters killed in the struggle against the regime. Despite this, the protests continue unabated. Donald Trump had previously vowed to strike Iranian government structures if protesters were killed. He now has a real opportunity to demonstrate the seriousness of those intentions. At the same time, it remains unclear what form a U.S. operation against Iran might take, or what its consequences could be. As in the case of Venezuela, Trump is unlikely to deploy American ground troops against the regime of the Ayatollahs. The most probable scenario involves remote action only, primarily missile strikes against the Islamic Republic, aimed at eliminating its political leadership and senior military commanders. During a previous 12-week war involving Israel and the United States against Iran, facilities where nuclear fuel could have been stored were bombed, and many high-ranking military officers were killed. Yet this did not destroy the regime. In the contrary, repression against its opponents only intensified. Today, Iran's leaders are attempting to mobilize their supporters against the protesters, effectively igniting a civil war. Thousands of people in Tehran and other cities have demonstrated their readiness to defend the regime. Given that Iran is a key ally of both China and the Russian Federation, it is far too early to claim that U.S. missile strikes would lead to the collapse of the Iranian regime. Global and domestic consequences. A strike against Iran could result in destabilization of global oil and gas markets. Ironically, this would benefit Putin, another ally of Iran. Advantages for Russia. Rising oil prices would provide the Russian president with additional resources to continue the war against Ukraine and to stabilize a budget weakened by energy sanctions. Pressure on the U.S. economy. Gulf states fear that an attack on Iran would destabilize the region and negatively affect the American economy. The state of the U.S. economy is a crucial concern for Trump ahead of the November congressional elections. If voters go to the polls amid a sharp decline in living standards, Republicans could lose control of the House of Representatives and possibly even the Senate. In that case, by 2027, Donald Trump could be forced to leave the Oval Office under a major political crisis. Any foreign policy mistake could carry severe domestic political consequences for Trump. He is currently weighing several extremely difficult options for intervention in Iranian affairs. While he seeks to support the protesters and bring an end to one of the most brutal authoritarian regimes of the modern era, he cannot afford to destabilize the oil market or undermine the U.S. economy, especially at a time when many Americans do not support his foreign policy approach, particularly regarding the Russo-Ukrainian war. Predicting the coming days is difficult, but one thing is clear. What happened in Venezuela will not happen in Iran. Iran is an ideological regime that is not tied to a single individual. Even if leaders such as Ali Khamenei were eliminated, those who carried out the 1979 revolution and their children are unlikely to relinquish power. They understand the cost of the regime's collapse and likely possess the strength to crush their opponents even after U.S. strikes. Moreover, Iran retains a substantial missile arsenal capable of retaliatory attacks against Israel or neighboring states. Such a scenario would shatter regional stability and draw Trump into a far larger and longer war than he may have anticipated.